So every time there's a failure, every time there's a rejection, every time things aren't going what you wanted them to be, just remember to yourself, every delay is a blessing. I've always noticed that anytime something's been delayed in my life, it's actually been for the better.
From a global audience of millions to a life defined by motivation and wisdom, Jay Shetty's story is often seen as one of triumph. But beneath the inspiring speeches and viral videos lies a profound human vulnerability few have witnessed. What happens when the man who teaches positivity faces battles that remain hidden from the spotlight? At just 38, the contrast between public perception and private reality is startling. How does someone so deeply invested in spreading light grapple with his own darkness? This tragic paradox raises important questions about success, mental health, and the unseen costs behind personal transformation. Public success, private struggle. Jay Shetty's rise to fame has been meteoric. From posting thought-provoking videos on social media to hosting one of the world's most popular podcasts, he has become a household name in the realm of personal development and motivation. Millions tune in daily to hear his messages about mindfulness, purpose, and love. Yet behind this widespread admiration lies a more complicated story, one that reveals a profound struggle beneath the surface of his public persona. Despite his polished presence and uplifting words, Shetty has spoken candidly about the intense pressure of living up to the image he has created. The expectation to constantly deliver positivity and wisdom can be isolating, especially when grappling with personal doubts or emotional challenges. Fans may see a beacon of hope, but he has described moments when even his own motivation wavered. The disconnect between the face he shows the world and the experience within himself is a core part of this tragedy. Success has not shielded him from the same vulnerabilities that affect millions. The paradox of being both a source of inspiration and a person fighting inner battles is a difficult weight to carry. This struggle isn't just about celebrity, but about the human cost of maintaining authenticity in a highly visible spotlight. His story challenges assumptions that success automatically equals happiness or peace. Talks about mental health with influencers and public figures have become kinda more normal. Still, the stigma and the dread of being open remain like a heavy thing. Shetty's own experience shows that even people who speak on healing and mindfulness have to deal with their own quiet, tucked-away wounds sometimes. There is this whole pressure to be a role model of wellness, and it can turn into this silent internal crisis when real life doesn't match those bright ideals, not even close. If you follow Jay Shetty, it can feel natural to think of him as untouchable or like he's beyond hardship, but his path actually reminds us that influence doesn't cancel out pain. His story is a kind of invitation to have empathy and to look more closely at the messy nuances that live behind the polished social media view. It also nudges us to ask how much we truly know the people we admire, like, really know them. That clash between public success and private strain is not something only Shetty faces. It's something you can see in a lot of modern figures, stuck between their online self and their day-to-day reality. The tragedy is that these fights can stay invisible, even when the world is obsessed with posting every small moment. To understand what fuels this tug of war, you kind of have to trace where Jay Shetty started from and which forces helped shape him into who he is. Shetty's earlier years and his spiritual road planted seeds both for his message and for the obstacles he would run into later. Those roots give context for how his transformation began and for the expectations that came along with it. And yeah, that part matters. Transitioning from the challenges beneath the spotlight to the formative years that crafted the man behind the message reveals the depth of his journey. The making of Jay Shetty. Jay Shetty was born in London in 1987 to Indian immigrant parents, growing up in a culturally rich but sometimes challenging environment. Raised with a strong emphasis on education and traditional values, he initially pursued a conventional path, studying behavioral science at university and even working in the corporate world. Yet, from an early age, Shetty felt a pull towards something more meaningful than the typical 9-to-5 grind. His decision to become a monk was pivotal. In his early 20s, he spent 3 years living in an ashram in India, a period marked by discipline, meditation, and deep spiritual study. This rigorous training profoundly shaped his worldview, teaching him the power of stillness and self-awareness. It also gave him a unique perspective to draw from when he later began sharing wisdom with a larger audience. The monk's lifestyle demanded sacrifice. Shetty renounced many modern comforts and pleasures to focus on inner growth. This experience built a foundation of mindfulness and compassion, but also distanced him from the fast-paced life he had known. It was a radical shift that allowed him to develop the clarity and purpose that eventually defined his work. Yet this period was not without its struggles. Like, really not. Living in such austerity and isolation led to these intense moments of doubt, loneliness, and self-examination. The discipline required was both transformative and grueling, forcing Shetty to confront his vulnerabilities head-on. No detours, no soft exits. Those early challenges sort of laid the groundwork for the emotional complexity that kept showing up and influencing him later on. When he finally left the ashram, he tried to bridge Eastern spirituality with Western audiences, and he did it by making content that translated old teachings into something more approachable and practical advice, as if it could be used tomorrow. His background gave him authenticity and that kind of compelling voice that stands out in the crowded self-improvement space. Still, it set a high bar because followers expected consistency and not just surface-level agreement. They wanted the depth, and they noticed when it was missing. Shetty's unique blend of monk wisdom and digital savvy allowed him to build a brand that didn't really match the usual templates. His path, from a traditional upbringing through monastic life to becoming a global influencer, mixed personal change with a modern message. But the road also created tensions as he moved between two different realities, one calm and quiet, the other loud and always on. The contrast between the quiet discipline of his early years and the constant demands of modern fame would keep pressing on him over time. Understanding this early spiritual phase is key, honestly, to seeing both his strengths and the inner conflicts he carries. Then, the pressures of celebrity, amplified by the demands that come with massive media exposure, introduced new challenges that he did not foresee. A closer look at his rise to fame reveals how the collision of spiritual teachings and modern culture shaped his public identity and internal struggles. Rise to fame and media impact. Jay Shetty's rise in the digital age was swift and remarkable. Starting with short videos on platforms like Facebook and YouTube, his content struck a chord in a world hungry for meaning and mental health advice. With over 1 billion views on Facebook alone, Shetty cemented his position as one of the most influential voices in motivation and wellness online. His ability to distill complex spiritual ideas into simple, shareable messages was key to his widespread appeal. His podcast, On Purpose, became a global sensation, featuring conversations with celebrities, thought leaders, and experts across various fields. The show offered a more intimate look at Shetty's philosophy and helped deepen his connection with millions of listeners worldwide. Through these mediums, he expanded his reach far beyond social media snippets. By collaborating with well-known figures and brands, Shetty also penetrated mainstream culture. Appearances on major television shows and partnerships with global companies brought his message into homes that had never before engaged with spiritual or mindfulness content. This broadened both his audience and influence, but it also increased the stakes. Fame brought new expectations. Followers wanted consistency, inspiration, and guidance at every turn. The demand for constant content creation and personal transparency grew exponentially. With millions of eyes watching, every word and action contributed to an image that quickly became difficult to maintain authentically. Behind the scenes, Shetty revealed in interviews that this constant presence required significant energy and focus. The joy of sharing wisdom was sometimes overshadowed by burnout and pressure. The business side of his success, involving branding and commercialization, complicated the purity of his original intentions. Despite this, Shetty continued to innovate, writing best-selling books and engaging in philanthropic work. His message of love, resilience, and self-awareness resonated especially during moments of global crisis, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. People worldwide turned to him for comfort and clarity amid uncertainty. Yet, the bright lights of fame often mask the complexities beneath. The blending of personal spiritual growth with a public persona creates friction. What is shared carries weight, and private struggles aren't always visible. The contrast between Jay Shetty's media impact and his internal reality deepened the tragic contours of his journey. Behind every viral video and polished speech, there is the ongoing challenge of balancing the role of a healer with the needs of a human being. This reality sets the stage for examining the pressures that come with living in that tension. Pressures behind the persona. Behind the polished messages and viral videos lies a relentless pressure that few outside Jay Shetty's circle fully grasp. The demand to consistently inspire others through optimism and spiritual insight leaves little room for personal vulnerability. He has acknowledged how the very identity of being a motivational figure can become a prison, requiring him to uphold an image even when emotions run contrary. This pressure to perform happiness and wisdom can create an exhausting divide between one's authentic self and the public persona. The pace of producing content to satisfy millions is grueling. Social media algorithms reward constant engagement, pushing creators like Shetty to churn out new material weekly, sometimes daily. This relentless cycle pushes mental and emotional limits. The risk of burnout looms large when authenticity begins to feel like a commodity packaged for followers, rather than a genuine reflection of inner life. Public scrutiny adds another layer of strain. Every word, gesture, or opinion is dissected by fans and critics alike. Mistakes are magnified, and any hint of imperfection can lead to backlash. Shetty, like many influencers, must carefully balance staying relatable and avoiding controversy. A tightrope walk that chips away at personal freedom. The expectation to be a flawless role model extends deeply into his private relationships and self-perception. He has spoken about feeling isolated, even when surrounded by support, because few can truly understand the contradictions of his life. Being both a human prone to struggle and a symbol of inspiration creates tensions that heighten stress and vulnerability. Financial incentives and branding work, though vital for sustaining his career, can sometimes end up messing with the first mission. Collaborations, sponsorships, and book deals give him resources and momentum, but they also invite a kind of scrutiny, where people start saying the core of his message gets diluted, and the whole purity of it isn't what it used to be. Dealing with these commercial realities means he's always negotiating values against sheer survival in an industry that can be pretty unforgiving. Shetty's transparency about those pressures, even if it's brave, feels a bit restrained. If he reveals too much, it could shift what the public believes or reduce his influence, almost like a quiet downgrade. But hiding the full truth doesn't really help either, because it loads up internal conflict and emotional wear. That push and pull between openness and protection becomes this steady emotional background, like it's part of the ongoing journey day after day. At the same time, the cultural turn toward authenticity is a little ironic, because it often asks for carefully chosen vulnerability. And somehow that curated openness can feel performative, which is a strange thing to admit. Jay's problem isn't only staying afloat in this atmosphere, it's also finding a route to be genuinely himself, while still staying connected to audiences who want inspiration on a fairly regular schedule. Trying to juggle all of that while keeping some inner calm is basically a continuous negotiation. And these pressures can gradually feed deeper mental health struggles that a lot of people overlook. The intensity of these external and internal demands often leads to very real struggles with mental health, inviting a closer look at the challenges Shetty has faced behind the scenes. Mental health challenges. Jay Shetty's openness about mental health struggles is a crucial part of his story, demonstrating that even those who teach healing are not immune to pain. He has admitted to battling anxiety and periods of deep self-doubt throughout his career. These challenges remind us that mental health struggles can affect anyone, regardless of status or perceived wisdom. Anxiety for Shetty often stems from the pressure to meet expectations, both external and self-imposed. The fear of disappointing millions or losing relevance weighs heavily. It's a common thread among high-profile creators who find their self-worth entangled with public approval. This creates a fragile emotional ecosystem where every setback feels magnified. Burnout has also been a significant obstacle. The relentless push to produce content and maintain a vibrant public image can drain energy and enthusiasm. Shetty has described moments when motivation faltered, causing him to question whether he could continue sustaining his role. These moments stand in stark contrast to the powerful confidence he projects on screen. The challenges extend beyond professional demands to personal life as well. Family, relationships, and personal growth, while living under the microscope, complicates recovery and self-care. The normal human need for privacy and rest often conflicts with the pressures of public visibility. Shetty's willingness to discuss these issues disrupts traditional stigmas around mental health, especially within communities that may view vulnerability as weakness. His voice helps normalize conversations about anxiety and burnout among millions who might otherwise suffer in silence. Such transparency fosters a more compassionate dialogue around mental health. However, revealing these struggles does not eliminate the pain. The journey towards healing remains ongoing and complex. Shetty's narrative illustrates how mental health recovery is not a destination, but a process. Sometimes fragile, often demanding continuous effort. The disparity between the inspirational messages he shares and his private battles adds a layer of tragic irony. It challenges the assumption that those who uplift others are always grounded themselves. Understanding these mental health challenges sheds light on the depth of his personal tragedy, moving us closer to the heart of what makes his story so heartbreaking. The story now turns toward reflecting on what lessons emerge from his journey and how they resonate beyond his own experience. Lessons and legacy. The story of Jay Shetty demonstrates a combination of triumph and tragedy, which serves as the source of many important lessons about integrity and resilience in contemporary society. In this way, this journey challenges the conventional perception about the nature of influence and success. Specifically, it shows that despite the power of someone's impact on other people, this person may still suffer a lot and face numerous difficulties due to being vulnerable. The main lesson that can be drawn from Shetty's experience is the necessity of understanding that success does not prevent anyone from having problems. At the same time, this lesson emphasizes that it is vital to embrace one's vulnerabilities. By doing so, Jay Shetty shows the true meaning of integrity, which implies openness towards admitting difficulties to make people feel better. In addition to this, it should be noted that the example of Jay Shetty illustrates the fact that it is extremely important to focus not only on spreading wisdom, but also on personal health issues, since the life of a public figure can be very stressful and demanding. The dialogue Shetty helps foster around mental health is especially vital in communities that have historically stigmatized vulnerability. By speaking openly, he normalizes a subject often shrouded in silence and fear. He shows that mental health challenges do not diminish one's value or ability to contribute meaningfully. In doing so, Shetty broadens the definition of strength to include emotional honesty. Another important lesson kinda comes out of the tension between the spiritual wisdom Shetty embodies and the practical realities of modern celebrity. His path shows how difficult it can be to mesh ancient teachings with the speed and pressures of today's world. This struggle connects with a lot of people who try to live honestly while still getting hit with competing expectations, so it turns into this universal challenge of staying true to yourself. Shetty's story also pushes us to rethink how we actually consume motivational content. It basically asks audiences to make room for complexity, not just for neat, easy answers like straight lines. His journey isn't only about giving ready-made solutions, but about allowing the messy, ongoing kind of personal transformation. That change in viewpoint then helps build patience and kindness for ourselves and for others as well. Ultimately, the tragic contradictions of Jay Shetty increase the significance of his contribution. The fact that there is a healing process, rather than the destination in itself, is illustrated through his life and work. This means that no matter how many answers one already has on his or her plate, one may still be engaged in a struggle for peace and hope inside. And this empathy has the power to change our attitude towards public figures, as well as towards each other. His legacy reminds people that growth is not about becoming flawless, but about continuing to move forward with honesty when life feels uncertain. Jay Shetty's story reminds us that real strength is not about hiding our struggles. It is about facing them with honesty, resilience, and compassion, even when the world expects perfection. If this story resonated with you, like and subscribe for more thoughtful looks at the complicated lives behind public figures, and tap the next video on your screen to uncover another story that may change the way you see fame.